Hello and welcome to the last episode of Season 4. It's Cardiff with Manic Street Preachers as Overrated and Mclusky as Underrated with special guest Ceri Mitchell from the Playlist Yeah podcast. We've had a lovely season this time around. There's been Eurovision, there's been a lot of rock, there's been some pop, and we don't know when the 5th season will come out. I guess I'm recording this without talking to Fran about it, but I personally have 1,000,001 weddings too that I'm going to this summer, because they're all catching up on me. So I reckon not for a couple of months yet will we have enough episodes for season 5, but we will definitely be back. Let's get into the episode. Fran will be back at the end to outro, so see you next time.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it over-underrated?
Over-underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over-underrated.
And welcome to another episode of Over-underrated. It's Fran here. I am not alone because I have my co-host, Babs, in Belgium. Hello, Babs in Belgium.
B.I.B. Hello there, Fran in Bournemouth. Is there an F place that we could alliterate with nearby? Froome? Is that anywhere near you?
I went to Ferndown School. That's the first time they've ever been mentioned on a podcast.
Well, there
See?
we go.
Banter.
Shout out to them. Hashtag Bants with a Z. Oh, it begins so well. So, apart from naming your primary school, secondary school?
All of them. All of them. Ferndown first, middle and upper. Let us know if you went to Ferndown School. Looking forward to not hearing from you because I hate you guys. But they put me in the corner.
Wow, childhood trauma uncovered live on the Over-underrated podcast.
I have been listening to some things today and yesterday and all week. And
tell me more.
It's this crazy thing called a music podcast. Because I don't really listen to much music, actually, which is why I do this podcast, to force me to get back into listening to music, like I did back in 2008 before I discovered podcasts. And I have been listening to the Raconteurs podcast.
Oh, I didn't know they had a podcast.
Well, I mean...
Oh, not the band.
No, it is not Jack White. We are talking
about... there are many shades of black, okay.
We are talking about the Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet,
yes,
and Guy Pratt from many other bands, talking to people. And this week we're talking to David Arnold, the composer. The composer, he used to do James Bond. He did Play Dead with Bjork and many other theme tunes and stuff. And last week was Jim Kerr from Simple Minds. And it's a lovely chat, and I highly recommend it. Have you been listening to anything good this week?
Well, I have been listening to podcasts related to our underrated pick, which we will get into. But music-wise, I have been going a bit retro and listening to a lot of Uffy, which I don't know if that means anything to either of you.
I have played Uffy at an indie disco back in 2007.
Yes, you did. So in Brussels, it's the Les Nuits Festival at Botanique, and Uffy was performing. And I'd heard stuff about her performance and how it wasn't so fantastic. So I was a little bit concerned. And the evening started with the screen not working. So she had to do it with no backdrop. And, you know, while it's true that there was a lot of backing vocals, there was a very good bass player. She had all the right attitude and finished with Pop the Glock and invited everyone on stage. So it was a very nostalgic, good time. And she actually has an album coming out soon, and she played quite a few songs off it. So I recommend Uffy for nostalgia's sake.
So are you happy with the audience for once?
Well, it was, let's say, a more LGBT plus audience than usual, which generally means more of a good time. I hadn't realised. I did think a lot about how she's the precursor to Charli XCX, and I think the Charli XCX concert I went to in 2019 was one of the most LGBT concerts I've ever been to, and that was great. There were loads of drag queens who she knew about and then invited on the stage as well, so it was generally more of a good time. There was this gay couple next to me, which was brilliant because one of them was so into it and the other guy was hugging him from behind, totally oblivious, like just totally not enjoying it, but you could see he was there for his partner. He kept getting the beers in. It was a lovely sight to behold. Some inclusiveness at the Botanical Gardens, but I feel like I'm going a bit off topic here and ignoring our guest, because we are not alone. We have Ceri Mitchell from the Playlist Yeah podcast. Hello, Ceri.
Hi guys, how's it going? Yeah, thanks for having me. I was actually going to wonder, because I was thinking about Uffy, because how old is she now? Because wasn't she super young when
she is slightly younger than me. She is she was born in 1987, as was I, but I was born in August. She was born in December, so she is 34 years old.
Okay.
But have you been listening to Uffy or anything else this week, Ceri?
Well, I was I think you guys spoke about Wet Leg before, and I was listening I went on holiday the other week and I put that album on because I didn't like Chaise Lounge that much when it came out. I found it a bit irritating, but the rest of the album, when I was listening to it, I actually found pretty good, pretty enjoyable. I mean, I like Wet Dream. I think this is a really good pop indie track.
This is it. I think they've got it down. I think it's a perfect formula because it's indie enough for indie and pop enough for pop, and I think that's why they've been so successful.
But I checked out some videos. I wasn't so sure on I'm interested to see what they'd be like live, because they also seem very young, and somehow the stage performance, I was like, if they're going in 5 years' time, I'm not sure if some of their stage moves will still be looking quite so cool,
But yeah, so I mentioned the Les Nuits Festival. They are actually playing Les Nuits Festival on the 15th of May. However, it is very, very sold out. So I've signed up to Ticket Swap to see if I can get a ticket, because another previously mentioned band, Turnstile, they had a sold out concert in June and I just managed to nab a ticket there. So I'm hoping the ticket angels are going to shine brightly on me and I can see Wet Leg basically in 12 days time. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
I'm a bit gutted because they were supposed to play Camp Festival last June and it cancelled. And I could be that person who could say, oh yeah, I saw Wet Leg like in 2021 before you guys heard of him, but sadly I will probably never see them again.
Like, I feel like I'm very close because Botanique is a very small venue, so they for this festival they erect a stage outside, but it's, I would say, tops 500 people. So I would really, really like to see them in that atmosphere. Even though I do think that because they are very trendy, it is going to be full of insufferable hipsters. So I'm going to have to elbow my way to the front.
So actually, I went to I went to see Idols the other day in Berlin, and that was the audience was pretty good. But I have been to, like, how should I put it? So I've been in Berlin since 2009. When I first came, I came from Cardiff, which was quite an indie city, and then coming into what is quite a heavily electronic and especially techno at this point, which was, I'm still arguing, isn't a type of music which I've necessarily grown to like love so much. So I remember going to some like rock or like indie kind of gigs, and the audiences were okay. But I've seen better ones, if I'm honest. But I have actually seen some very, very, very niche ones. And talking about my underrated acts today, I did see his band after that in Berlin, and the audience there was really, really good. But it kind of felt like they were a bit starved of that kind of music, possibly, when I was there.
So you're not much of a Scooter fan, Ceri?
Not even. Saying that, I have seen Scooter live in Berlin.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
I didn't want to go to it. I worked in a hotel, and it was right close to what would be like the O2 World. So the same as the O2 Arena. And Scooter were playing there. They had some comp tickets, and someone said, I want to go to Scooter. And I said, I don't really want to go to Scooter. He said, please come with me. So I went to Scooter, and I was like, I've seen Scooter live for free.
So how was Scooter under duress?
It was like, imagine seeing a bunch of quite uncool parents with quite a lot of children with them, whilst the parents are flipping out and the kids are just kind of like, I'm going to stay up past 10 o'clock tonight.
So tell me, in Germany, does he still do his like broken English chants like, go rave people, come on, let's move it?
Yeah, so that was like, I found really weird. He introduced the whole back line in English, and I was like, bear in mind, you're German, so and the Scooter crowd, I'm not sure how multilingual they are, but they didn't, I think they'd appreciate it if he was, using his native tongue.
Wow.
Well, no one expected to have a Scooter chat.
No, not especially not when we have the theme today, which it's Cardiff, right? It's not Wales. We can be specific.
It's been Cardiff, yeah. It's
been Cardiff. So, Ceri, before recording, I asked because of your name if you were Welsh, and I wondered if that was maybe why you'd picked this theme. But it seems you have a story to tell.
Yeah. So, no, I'm from the home counties. I'm from Hertfordshire originally, but I did go to Cardiff to study in 2003 and stayed there until before I moved to Berlin in 2009. So that's where, and I guess that informed a lot of myself because I was 19 when I moved to Cardiff and 24, 25 when I left. Arguably, then I had my own musical career while I was in Cardiff. I had my own band, Threat Mantics, who we got signed to Domino Records, and
Nice.
which was pretty good. And then obviously made a lot of musical friends whilst I was there. And then I moved away from Cardiff, and that was kind of the end of my musical career. But during that time, there was obviously a lot of Welsh influence, or the band who I played in was with two Welsh guys and just my friends and things like that. And there's a different kind of love for certain things which comes out of Wales when you are in Wales, which has informed my overrated choice today, being the Manic Street Preachers, because some people seem to really, really like that band. And I did, and just listening back to some of the other episodes, it felt like some people chose bands who they rated overrated, who they liked. And I guess I'm going to probably go into this and say that I don't like the Manic Street Preachers very much. And from going back and listening to a little bit more, I would kind of go, you know what, I maybe even like them less than I remembered liking them. And part of the reason why I wrote to you guys initially was because there was a BBC Six Music Festival recently, which was in Cardiff, and it had the Manic Street Preachers playing in Clubby for Bach, which is a really kind of institutional live music venue. And it was all the time on the radio. And I was like, and my wife said to me, can we turn this off? It's quite annoying. And I said, yes, it is. And then I saw it, and I said, and I was feeling a little bit angry. I thought, who's overrated? The Manic Street Preachers. And then, and that's how I landed on them. And as a result, have spent, the last couple of weeks since I guess I wrote to you, listening to more Manic Street Preachers than I've probably listened to in the last 15 years. Confirming that I was right, that I don't think they are a fantastic band.
I love how I feel like we've become a service for people who want to rant about bands that they hate or bands that they love, because just before this podcast I didn't even read out the message, but I was saying to Fran that this guy who's just connected with me sent me like a long treatise on bands he thinks are overrated and underrated without me even asking, and I fucking love it. I love it. So okay, very good.
It's nice to have the passion, but I wonder if we can persuade you. Who knows what's going to happen?
Who knows what's going to happen?
Probably not.
But Fran, what's your relationship with Manics? And I guess you have more of a relationship with Wales than I do because you have family there?
I have a father who, like self, is in no means Welsh, who just moved there because houses are cheap. But speaking of the Welsh scene in the noughties, did you know Los Campesinos and For Joy Formidable? They're two bands I know from that era.
So, I played shows with both those bands, actually. And I was in the pub. There was a night called Twisted by Design, and Los Campesinos came in. They recorded the demo for You Me Dancing, and they came in and they played it in the pub whilst we were there, and everyone was like, "Oh, good, this is quite a catchy tune." Yes, I do know those bands, and that's exactly the time which I was playing.
I will just quickly interrupt to say hi to Matt from Pick a Disc, because I know that Los Campesinos are possibly his favourite band, and he's even been sharing a Los Campesinos hurdle that he's doing. So if for the Los Campesinos fans out there, follow Pick a Disc. Get your Los Campesinos quota.
And when you heard that song, did you think, this will be a big Xbox advert track in the future?
What should I say? When I heard that track, Fran, I was maybe I'd had a couple of drinks, and it was quite a nice little danceable tune to keep the night going. But they're all there and they're all clapping along with themselves, and that was also a little bit like, I'm not sure if that's cool.
We'll definitely get into that as a theme in both bands, thinking about how great your band is, for sure.
Okay, but regarding the Manic Street Preachers, I am aware of them. I am of the era. I was around in the 90s. I remember seeing them in Smash Hits magazine in the early 90s and being a bit scared of the name and the balaclavas they wore, and ignoring them for a while whilst I listened to Do the Bartman on tape. And then I think they got a track on the second album, which may have been on Game On. the theme tune for like a TV show. And then I didn't know them at all until they brought out Design for Life, and obviously that became a massive Britpop hit. I've never been a massive fan. I think I own that album, Everything Must Go, and I was then disappointed by the next 3 or 4 albums, and then in the last 20 years they probably do maybe 2 singles per album I like. But I will say I've seen them live at festivals and they are a decent live act. But yeah, I'm not like an avid Manics fan, and there are many avid Manics fans with feather boas on probably listening to this, hopefully. Babs?
Yeah, so being a bit younger than you, Fran, my exposure to the Manics was If You Tolerate This, Then Your Children Will Be Next. That was the first one, and the creepy music video that freaked me the fuck out because I was 11 years old. And yeah, it's been interesting because coming into this, I'm like, for sure Manics are overrated. Again, one of those bands where the fans are just frothing at the mouth about how great they are, and I'm like, really? I mean, you've got to hand it to them. They've been together for bloody ages, and they've been together 35 years and have 14 studio albums. So, I mean, hats off for that. But they are undeniably huge. They've got 1.49 million monthly listeners. I think, kind of analysing them a bit more, I think what confuses me about the Manics is I can understand why their image and their politics is, intriguing, especially in the time that they came out. But what's interesting about them is they sing about tough political subjects with some very melodic music. So, Rage Against the Machine, they are absolutely not. And given what's happening in the US at the moment with abortion rights, I discovered a song today called Butyric Acid by a band called Consolidated. Have you guys heard of them?
No.
They're this very political US band who sang this very political song about abortion. And I was like, yeah, actually, that's more what I'd be thinking of when you're talking about the Spanish Civil War and other stuff. So yeah, I'm interested in their kind of cultural position and what they have to say, but I'm not a huge fan of the music. And I just, reading into them a bit more, I think they're a bit of a, I'm going to get crazy. They're a bit of a poser band. I feel like they have this swagger and arrogance about them. I only found out actually on the podcast what Fran said, that they wanted to be bigger than Guns N' Roses, which is again seems at odds with their kind of.
But I wonder, is that the band or is that just Nicky Wire?
This I don't know, but I read an article which was there are 6 steps. We need a double album for the debut. We need to match the 16 million sales of Guns N' Roses. We need to headline Wembley Stadium. We need to instigate a cultural socialist revolution. We need to set ourselves on fire on top of the Pops and then split up.
And yeah, Nicky Wire's come out saying some terrible things in the past.
Oh yeah, and Richie Edwards as well. Yeah.
Can I jump in, because part of it as well. I remember a turning point for me with it, and I went back to find this article, and I realized it's 18 years ago. There was a thing. It was only a really short article in the NME, and at the time, I really liked the White Stripes back when they first came, 2002 or whatever, 2001, 2002, and there was just Nicky Wire came out, and it was just a short article. And bear in mind, this is my height thing. It said Nicky Wire Manic Street Preachers bassist Nicky Wire has hit out at bands like the White Stripes and Jet. Okay, Jet's fine. Branding them fucking crap.
It's so boring.
I mean that's not bad. I mean, he reckoned that Michael Stipe's would die of AIDS.
Oh, hang on. I have another one for you that Richie Edwards said. So Richie Edwards says that we will always hate shoegazers like Slowdive more than we hate Adolf Hitler. I mean,
but I don't know if it's just them trying to dance along the rock and roll sort of.
But again, it goes back to how many times we've discussed this in punk, where it's I feel that they're leftist for intellectual sake rather than actually what they believe in. Quite honestly, I can believe that they enjoy reading philosophy and they're clearly very smart. And like I said, I enjoy the topics of their songs, but I'm just this is kind of white men playing devil's advocate is what it feels like.
So you don't think that Richie was for real?
Well, that's a good point, well made. I mean, that was a good response, but I think there's a lot of I don't know, maybe not toxic masculinity, but they're not as kind of, I feel, radical as they think they are. And I'd forgotten about this, but James Dean Bradfield a while ago said, it actually worries me that I still like being in a really blokey environment. I always get bored of the company of women really quickly, which I just really,
wow.
really.
When did he say that?
This was about, I think, maybe 18 years ago, something
Really?
like that.
Okay. Even though they've done like 3 covers of like females, that's quite interesting.
And they were with it. So, but I'm just like, that's so typical.
Sorry. Apparently, he's never sent an email. Apparently, he's a technophobe.
Okay, fair enough. To summarise my big long rant, like, I think the topics that Manic's write about are interesting. Their kind of anti-Britpop position is interesting, and the fact that they were so androgynous as well, and clearly kind of paid a price for that, for doing that so brazenly at a time when it wasn't so open. But I'm not a huge fan of their music, and I think they're not as radical and interesting as people think they are.
Overrated.
So we move on to the music, so we move on to the playlist.
What's your first pick, Ceri?
Yeah, so the first pick was Motorcycle Emptiness from Generation Terrorist from 1992. To be honest, like going back, it was kind of easy. I mean, I guess it'd be like the singles which I remember as the songs which I didn't like, and then I could just go on Spotify, and then I was scanning through. I mean, I scanned through stuff today, and I found even horrible stuff, but still these singles were really like, just listen to it's really long. This is a super long song, and maybe it'd be okay if it was like 3.5 minutes or something like that. It has some okay bits, but I mean, I still find that it had so many guitar breaks. It kind of had this little kind of doodly guitar which comes in and breaks in everything every single time. I think, okay, a couple of times okay, but by like the 5th time, I don't know. Didn't really find it good. And one thing which I kind of spotted going through it always felt like they had these string sections, which, bear in mind the quote of Nicky Wire talking about things being done really fast by the White Stripes. It always felt like it wasn't a proper string section. It was a keyboard string section coming in, and bear in mind they've taken a lot of time between doing albums, and I was a bit like, okay, yeah. So how did you guys find it? Because it's one of the big early ones for the Manic.
So I discovered this probably after Everything Must Go era, because they had started to play the old songs on MTV, and when I first heard it, I loved it. I thought, I found that I had no idea what it's about, like what the hell was their Motorcycle Emptiness, but I enjoyed the ambition. It was, it's quite rare that a band who on their first album will have a song this epic, and I'm sure if they were allowed to, they would have a string section, but I agree it does seem a bit dated now with that synth sound instead of strings. But I like the guitar riffs, and I've heard it many times live, and it always works for me. It does stick out on the album, because the album's really weird. It's like half of it's like punk, half of it wants to be metal, and then you have these like epic pop songs. It's like, it does sound like a band who didn't really know what they're doing back in those days.
That is interesting. From my experience of playing and sometimes going to the valleys as well, you'd kind of have this. You'd have bands who would actually have this kind of. They could play pretty well, but it would be almost this. Okay, now we're doing a punk song, now we're doing a metal song, and now we're doing like a Britpop song, and that seemed to actually happen quite a bit.
So maybe it's the whole repertoire in that first album.
Let's go.
I'm thinking, like, maybe is it just because Wales is a smaller place, and so the influences are more varied than, say, like, I don't know. I'm thinking of a town like Southend when the Horrors and These New Puritans were there. It was a bit more kind of zoned in on something. It could be that.
It could be. I mean, again, like going to the valley, sometimes you did kind of sit around the table and you'd have this. It was interesting. You'd see like kind of goth kids with, we'd say like the kids in like sportswear, and everyone's like a friendship group, because you don't really have the choice not to do it. So
no, exactly. I do wonder that, because I mean, Belgium is a mesh for that as well. Like, definitely electronic and rock very often predominate, but I don't think there's that much snobbery between the genres. People will go to other concerts, I think, because it's a smaller scene.
Do you rate his guitar playing, Ceri?
So with the Manics, bear in mind, because I also looking at the artwork and things like that, there's pretty much everything which they do is what I personally wouldn't wanted to have done as a band or as a guitar player. I made those, and there's some things which I almost felt like some bits sounded like a decent guitar player in school who's got a nice little like lick, and that's how I kind of felt about it. And I felt like I could play that, and then I would realize what I was doing, and then I would say, I need to stop and try and change my direction here.
So, Babs?
So I read about this song for years before I first heard about it, because I think having been, exposed to This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours, Manic Street Preachers, and then getting more into rock music and reading a lot of Q magazine, I kept reading about Motorcycle Emptiness, the classic Manic song. And then when I finally heard it, I was like, really? This is pretty standard British, rock. I think it's 90s How Soon Is Now, but not as good. And it's so long. Like, I actually don't think I'd heard it all the way through, and it just kept going and going. I wonder if the music video is shorter or something, because I do remember seeing that. And yeah, I've written that many people think the riff is genius. I find it a bit annoying because it's so repetitive, and the song is so long. But I do like the title, Motorcycle Emptiness. It definitely is evocative, and of course, when you look up what is it about, and yeah, it's about finding temporary happiness and fulfillment in spending and buying a luxury, but after a while that feeling goes away and you're left empty. Sure, that's a good theme. I like that as a theme, but music wise, not to my cup of tea.
Yeah, Fran, what did you think? Because what did you think of the guitar playing, and what's your feeling?
Well, so I have. Here comes the bingo part. So, working in a music store, we had like a couple like proper like Manic fans, with like the glitter and the eyeliner, and both of them said that it's all about Nicky's amazing lyrics and James's guitar playing, and they would say that he's the best British guitar player of our generation. So people would always say that, but he's an amazing guitarist. And I guess when you do see him live, it is just him a lot of the time doing everything. So he's got a talent, but as you do say, he does show off a little bit. But I guess they were kind of into like poodle rock in the 80s, weren't they? A little bit. I think they like Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses, so they probably were wanting to do that sort of like show off style guitar playing. Yeah. So I think it comes from that. But moving on to your next track, which has a little noodling.
Yeah, it does. And to be honest, so again, like when I went to Cardiff and I like quite a lot of different music, but especially in this time, a lot of guitar music and kind of loud guitar music. Everyone was like, you're always going on about how you don't like the match. You've got to listen to the Holy Bible. You've got to listen to the Holy Bible. It's different to the other ones. You're gonna like it. And to be fair, from the other songs, this one is one which I like more. I still feel it's a little bit long for the kind of starter kind of track where it is, but it is frantic, and I kind of like this kind of frantic, and I also like his vocal delivery in it more than I like it from other songs, which because it feels a little bit more frantic and kind of pushing through, without still loving it. There's still other songs of this kind of style which I think there's better versions of this song, but it's still decent. It's not if my wife asked me to turn it off in the kitchen, I would say, we can listen to this one.
So yeah, like when I bought Everything Must Go, I was then told by all of the Call It Indie kids, have you not heard the Holy Bible, Fran? So I then finally got to the Holy Bible, and I think it's their worst album, and I think Faster is the only song I could listen to on the entire album. I'm sorry, guys.
We're gonna be crucified.
I don't want to hear about, it's like songs about anorexia and abortion, and okay, I get it, but there's literally no melody or choruses. It's just, I find in that album, it's James is struggling to find a melody to fit the lyrics. Like, the lyrics are that important that the song melody fails because they're trying so hard to fit in all his lyrics, and it doesn't work for me on many songs. And I apologise, Manic fans, but it is not great. It is not the best album of the 90s.
I will say, so I love James Dean Bradfield's voice. I think his voice is incredible, and I will agree with both of you that it feels underused in a lot of songs. Like, I feel like there's so much more that could be done on this one. Like, I much prefer this to Motorcycle Emptiness, and I actually didn't realize I knew this song and didn't realize this was the Manic, so I have no idea. Was it an indie disco? I've heard it before, but I don't know where. And yeah, I like how it shifts in tone, and there's this kind of wonky guitar solo, and he's shouting a little bit. But yeah, I didn't feel the need to listen to it more than twice, just to kind of get a handle, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. That's it. But the chorus is great. I am stronger than Mensa, Miller and Mailer. I spat out Plath and Pinter. I am all the things that you regret. A truth that washes that learn how to spell. I mean, that is catchy, but
what is
not
it?
Enough.
What is it about, though?
What is
it about?
Yes.
So it's about Genius says it is a definite explanation of how notorious lyricist Richie Edwards lived his life among a judgmental society. Fran.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I think yes. Well done. You've read some philosophy, Richard. Well done. You don't have to keep mentioning every time you fucking write a lyric. You can write a song that means something to people. You don't have to show off by quoting people every 4 seconds.
I don't mind that. See, I don't mind that they're doing that. But yeah, I think it's when it affects the music and the melody that's the problem.
Do you not think though that album's just far too wordy? It's like,
I have not heard that album.
Oh really?
No,
okay.
really. I think with the Manics, I try, and then I'm like, no, this is not for me.
Oh, Babs, this is nice. You sound like you're just talking for me. So, I mean, again, this is your podcast, so all the Manics fans,
they're coming for us, not you.
Their next track,
Design for Life. It doesn't start particularly well for me, and that kind of continues into being like getting more and more close to 10 off the whole way through. It kind of goes, and then it has a chorus, which I guess like this, I can understand why it's going to hook people in. For me, it's like, and because I guess it's in my head, and that's what I kind of remember with like things from the Max. But it actually, again, just left me more irritated than, and that was growing up, and that's probably as a teenager when I would have first heard it. When's it from? Like
96.
96. So yeah, I'd have been like 12, maybe like between 12 and 14, I guess, when I'm like hearing it, like, so. I get why I get this, like why it's kind of got big, especially in like Radio 1 and UK kind of like radio play or something like that. But again, it's another song which I kind of just carried on the theme of being like, oh yeah, I remember why I wasn't so much into this band.
On a night out in Cardiff, is this track always played at like midnight for people to sing along to?
Well, yeah, there would be this, and there would be Super Furry Animals would also get quite a bit of play, but I quite enjoyed the Super Furry Animals, so yeah.
but is the song about like, this isn't a working class?
I think it is.
So it's quite ironic when you then have people going, "Yay, who are drunk?" So yeah, I love this. But isn't he saying life is more than just getting drunk on the weekends?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm jumping in already, but like, I actually never paid attention to the lyrics. But it's obviously about that. It's about the working class life and its trappings, because he says we don't talk about love. We only want to get drunk. It's like our feelings have to be bottled because all we're doing is working and kind of living for, as much as we can. So
then at festivals you then get the people who are drunk going, yeah, love it.
Isn't that British though? Because there are so many bands, like we've talked about Kasabian, we've talked about The Verve, where the lyrics are so much deeper, the meaning behind them is so much deeper, but because it's catchy, people sing along.
It's interesting because it's that kind of thing because I don't like. There's like a certain kind of, I don't know. I mean, I guess we're going to get onto. Like lyrically, I'm like much more aware of my underrated choice, but like there's things that which I find a lot more kind of cynical and a bit more kind of poking fun at things rather than maybe.
The Manics do not poke fun. They take themselves very seriously.
It's very much kind of like here's the recipe, or like here's what's on the label, and there you are. Here's some things there.
But I will say that I do like the song. I've heard it many times, and yes, it's got the chorus is mediocre for. I guess it's a typical sort of like punchier chorus, but it does work. And when you go to like a festival and everyone sings along, it's a nice moment. And occasionally people put their arms around you, whether you want it or not. Pre-COVID.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to distance myself from you here, Ceri, and totally agree with Fran. I bloody love this song. I think it's absolutely genius, and I also really dislike the strings on Motorcycle Emptiness. I think they're beautiful. The rhythm guitar accompanying them as well. The drums keep it all going, and the fact that it ends with just the drums, I think gives it this kind of like. I don't know, it builds and then it stops and you're left a bit bereft afterwards. It's often a song that, in the right mood makes me cry, honestly, because the way it builds, especially the last chorus where the strings go up. So, for me, not a song to prove that they're overrated. I wish there were more songs like this.
But do we know which song kept it off from #1 spot?
Oh, can you give us clues?
Yeah, come on. So what? Hang on. Babs. Let's just have a look here. So what are we talking about? We're talking 1998.
96.
It's a solo artist of a different genre, and he spent a lot of his time inside.
Solo artist of
Inside?
a different genre who's went to prison.
Adam Rickett.
Snow Informer.
No, he's English.
Not Adam Rickett.
He is from the same city as Kasabian.
Leicester. Who's from Leicester?
Who is from
Leicester?
So,
You lied to me.
oh, Mark Morrison. Mark Morrison. Oh, well, no wonder he kept him that. Oh, that's a banger. That's a banger.
That is a banger.
Well, Mannix must have been livid.
What are you talking about? He was saying about the big issues there.
But I'll just finish for this. So what I think is quite nice. So they were invited to open the Cardiff Central Library, and there's a plaque inscribed with the opening lyrics. And apparently, a male voice choir performed a version of the song, and Nicky Wire described it as spine tingling. That sounds lovely. I'm much more on board with this kind of Mannix. What's your next pick, Ceri?
All right, so what do I have up here? If you tolerate this, your children will be next from This Is My Truth. So This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours from 1998. Kind of similar feeling really to the last song. I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job of selling these. And if I can just not really talk about the song, but I can talk about the album artwork for this. This is another example of why the Manics were not one of my favorite bands, because looking at this doesn't want to make me play in a band at all. Some guys on a beach in some baggy white things looking up at the thing. I don't know what it is. Bear in mind the hard topics which we're talking about here. Does that say hard topic to you?
But this is the duality of Mannix, isn't it? But yeah, there we go.
Going back to the song, it does have a nice intro into it, and again it's like one of those 90s songs. It'd be on like compilations which I was listening to, and I guess the hook of it, again, it's like, I don't know if it's like it's kind of true. I guess it's kind of true. It's kind of could be political, but it also feels a little bit like school poetry or something like that. You know, if you're kind of being like deep on things about like how things are going, that, you know, your children are going to be next for it.
Yeah, I remember like this having the Top of the Pops premiere back in those days when that was a thing, when people cared about music videos, and being really excited and then like watching it thinking, all right, what the fuck is that? And yeah, it's I have no idea how this became a #1 single. I guess just on the strength of the last album. I find it like MOR radio rock with a lyric about the Spanish Civil War. I've never gotten the song. I find it really boring.
Fran, also it has this thing as well with the big strings coming at some point again, but it doesn't, not big strings. Big keyboard strings.
But unlike Design for Life has had like that glorious chorus, the chorus is just like, and if you tolerate this,
Yeah.
like, does he mean it? I think the next track was that the sun, you stole the sun from my heart, was a
That's a banger.
Was a banger.
That's a banger.
But yeah, this to me has never done it. I've never understood how this was like a #1 single for them. But
Well, do you know what? I thought the same before listening to this song. Like I said, the video creeps me the hell out. But I think I pretty much only listened to this song with the video, even though my mum had this album, and I think I have inherited it, so it's probably behind me. But listening to the song with some distance, you know, when it wasn't on TV all the time, I actually really appreciated the woozy guitar at the beginning, and I think the strings here work. So I enjoyed this much more, I think, because it hasn't been forced down my throat. And I had no idea it was about the Spanish Civil War, and it's about the people like George Orwell who volunteered to be part of the International Brigade. So actually listening to it now and thinking about what's going on in the Ukraine, it feels I guess more apt to us Europeans now than before. But yeah, God, does the music not match the lyrics? Really, I think this is the epitome of it. Well, the next one as well, perhaps. But
do you know who they were fighting against for #1 for this single? This one.
Okay. More clues, please.
It's a manufactured pop band, and then later on they did the same with the album, and it just beat them with the album. There's a bit of a rivalry between
Okay,
these
so
two
it would
bands.
be second album. Second album. What are the songs? It's not Viva Forever, is it?
No, it's not Spice Girls. It's not Spice. It's
All Saints.
Keep going. Worse than All Saints.
That's not All Saints.
Girl band or boy band?
Mixed band.
Mixed
Hearsay.
Is that Babs?
I said steps.
Ding, 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 ding,
Oh,
ding, ding.
there we go.
5,
Wow.
6, 7, 8. Yes,
My boots scooting, baby.
them and the Steps had a rivalry for the single and the album.
Oh,
Who's
I
going to
love
get
it.
to number one? H
I love
versus
it.
Nicky Wire.
And look, they're both still around.
And H is also a Welshman.
He is.
He's also a Welshman.
Who occasionally gets mixed up with the wrong Ian Watkins.
But yeah, what's your final Manic song, Ceri?
What I was kind of aware of when I was giving you, I was kind of very much in the 90s there, so I thought I need to try and go through, try and find something which is more modern. I got as far as 2007, and I think, is this song done with the girl from the Cardigans?
Yes, Nina Pearson.
Yeah. You know, the Cardigans had some quite okay songs, and then there was this, which I just made a note, School Band. That was again the kind of vibe which I kind of felt a little bit with the interplay between the two of them. I still know that James E. Bradfield, I think he's done stuff more recently with Gweno, who's this Welsh language singer who I think is really good, actually. So I was almost a bit disappointed when I was looking at it thinking, oh, really? Okay, but again, that's kind of the institution of the Manics in Wales with other Welsh artists. So again, it's just a song which, I mean, for the size of them, it's a song which could get some radio play, but it's not fantastic.
Yeah, I'm back on board, Ceri. I think this song is so fucking annoying. It really annoyed me when it came out, and it's not enough, it really annoys me. And analysing it as well, they are both people with great voices, and they don't harmonise at all. They're just singing the same line. Like, what a wasted opportunity. I would say, yeah, what surprised me is because I thought, oh gosh, have the Manics done a straightforward love song? Haha, of course they haven't. Apparently it was taken from the actual last line of a suicide note of a friend of somebody we knew really well, which gives a different edge to the song because there are lyrics that said, like, I could have seen for miles and miles, I could have made you feel alive, I could have placed us in exile, I could have shown you how to cry. So again, there's this like amazing regret offset by this big melody, which is interesting, I guess. Not many people are doing that, but yeah, not for me. Fran?
Hello. So this was after two kind of albums which didn't get great sales, and I this is when I think Nicky came back saying that we want to be the biggest band in the UK again. So I wonder this is why they wrote probably the poppiest single to date. I wonder if there's no harmony so that he could sing it live, because they do this live and James does both vocals.
I mean,
So I wonder,
track, mate.
and
Like,
then you get Nicky Wire doing his cameo line randomly. But I don't hate this. I mean, I guess I like pop music a bit more than most people. But it's got a simple hook. It's surprising fair from the Manic Street Preachers. I don't think I expected to have a joyful duet around that time. But yeah, I guess it's dated now, and it's kind of a bit of an easy thing to do, isn't it? By repeating the same line again and again to get a pop hook.
But yeah, again, I find this so interesting because they have socialist credentials, and I can understand because we want to get these ideas into the mainstream, we want to be as mainstream as possible. But surely, isn't that inauthentic? That's the question here. Like, if they're doing it to tick off boxes.
They are massive hypocrites. So when they were massive in the late 90s, they would have their own toilet. Mm-hmm. This socialist band would refuse other artists being in their own area. And I remember the Levelers, who were semi-big at a time, were calling them out at festivals, saying that, do you know that the Manics, the socialists, refuse to let anyone touch their alcohol or drink or toilets?
Which I guess, like, if you're going to be so out there, of course you're going to have that accusation leveled at you, whereas, I don't know, the Blurs of this world wouldn't, because they're not wearing their heart on their sleeve so much. But I guess, yeah, because it's so extreme, it just, it feels like a bitter taste.
I remember, my first festival was V99 and they headlined it. And one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my life was at the end of the gig, Nicky ran on stage to try and kick over his PA system, and it just wobbled. And after three attempts, he walked off. And it was just, oh god, rock and roll, Nick Wire.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good.
It wasn't exactly Jimi Hendrix smashing his guitar, really.
Yeah, no. But perhaps I still find it interesting, like what you're saying, kind of like lyrically though, with it, because I still everything's it's kind of dim with stuff, but there's an element of, I guess, I don't know. I like things that are a bit kind of subversive, or kind of like not necessarily saying exactly what it is on the tin, and I'm kind of getting that a lot, autobiographical, or like kind of reading stuff and kind of then repackaging it in your own kind of way. Okay, I guess a lot of people do that, and I think you said on other ones, I don't care too much about lyrics, but then still, like, again, coming into this and thinking, I should actually have a little bit further look into what they're doing there, and just thinking, I don't know if I'm not sure how much I really appreciate any of it.
But yeah. So I mean, Ceri, I think we know what you think of the Manic. It sounds like putting this place together just solidified your opinion of them being overrated.
Yeah. Well, what can I say?
Fran?
They're halfway between both. So, like, they probably have 2 good albums and then enough to feel a best of. But they don't deserve to, like, back in the late 90s, I kind of was a bit sick of them around that time, and they're like headlining like the Cardiff Millennium Stadium, so they were a stadium act, and it's kind of weird being a stadium act, we're also having those lyrics about socialism and everything, and being a punk band, but at the same time having £100 tickets to go and see them at the Cardiff Stadium
and having a private toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, going on this playlist, definitely. I mean, like Ceri, I feel like you picked 5 of their biggest songs, and I love Design for Life, and I reevaluated If You Tolerate This, but I actually had no idea that they had so many albums. I can't believe there isn't an amazing 5-track playlist out there. Maybe there's not more than that, and I would, despite that, I would still consider them as overrated, especially, I mean, again, it's kind of the fans, but I think that there's a quote from Caitlin Moran that I didn't include, because she said, we didn't even talk about Richie Edwards' disappearance, right, which, to be honest, I didn't really know about, but I didn't realise that he'd been spotted afterwards and stuff like that, and maybe he did really disappear. But Caitlin Moran said that he became a core celeb among depressives, alcoholics, anorexics, and self-mutilators because he was the first person in the public eye to talk openly about these subjects. Not with a swaggering bravado and a subtext of, oh, look how tortured and cool I am, but with humility, sense, and often bleak humour. Which maybe you wouldn't agree with, but I was like, okay, like, again, maybe what he stood for, and maybe, in total opposition to Britpop, that's why so many people love them.
Do you know that they still give royalties to him? They give a quarter of the royalties still to Richie, and
account in his name. Which is, it's really sad. It's really sad. But there we go. Let's not finish on that note.
But I do agree. Yeah, I mean, I can find 5 songs of Everything Must Go, which would be better than most songs on this playlist. So you can find. They do have some great tracks.
You Stole the Sun from My Heart, and Tsunami as well. I really like as well, and that's the strings that they're most beautiful. But honestly, I feel like any other album in any other direction I've gone in, I have found nothing else that I like.
Well, they've even recently they've kind of gone a bit more electronic, and I think they've got a song called like Walk Berlin or something, which has got like some new wave. So they are still trying to do different things. They are dabbling. I guess. Unlike a lot of bands from that era. Yeah, well, I guess there's some bands from that era, like Ocean Colour Scene. It's the same Ocean Colour Scene album again. So they are trying to push it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I dipped in a bit today, but I just came across Nicky Wire doing some like demo covers, and I was like, well, dear, I wish I did that. But I do think, going back to Richie, I do think you made a very good point there, Babs. So I would definitely agree with that.
What he stood for, right?
Yeah, exactly. This kind of thing. And that was something else. But again, I still think when he disappeared, I was like too young to really take that on board, what that was,
Yeah, and I think the For Real thing, that was quite a stunt, and it kind of, I feel like it almost doesn't matter what the motivation was, because it's just like it is there in blood, sweat, and tears. Like that is definitely them not being posers in any sense of the word. But yeah, I guess it's surprising how he only featured, was it the first 3 albums? First 3 albums,
and then he wrote the lyrics to the 4th album.
Yeah, and how they managed to carry on and keep that essence. That is really impressive. But and
I will mention that we haven't mentioned Sean Moore. So hi, Sean.
Hi, Sean. I was reading about, like, he's really into, is it motorbikes or something? Like, his Wikipedia page was very. It was very funny because it was like, so Simon Price wrote that Sean Moore is quite possibly the only person in rock who doesn't take the Manic seriously. And he has a strong interest in motoring. There we go.
And he plays a mean trumpet.
Listen, we may think they're overrated, but we come with the hashtag facts.
Hello, this is a promo for a podcast about a playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Playlist. Yeah. My name's Mike Lash, former actor, former comedian, former creative, former cool dude. This is
Ceri Mitchell, former musician, former art student, current cool dude.
We've created a playlist, a fucking brilliant playlist.
The best playlist ever, to the point where we spoke to each other about how good the playlist is, and that we wanted to be the people at a party who's putting on the music and only putting on a few seconds of the music before changing the song, because everyone loves those guys at a party.
That's us. So each week we have a guest and they have to choose one song to define them as a human person. One song for me, Mike Lash, to sing right at them.
And then, because Mike is not the best person in his family, we've incorporated his mum to give her insight into each song, which will maybe help the guest to define themselves as a person.
But really, we probably shouldn't get bogged down in the format of the podcast. It's really heavily edited, so it's not actually that boring. It's quite short, so I really think you'll like it. Ceri's kids are home, so it's probably the end of this promo.
It is. What was it? www.playlistshare.com. And available wherever you get your podcasts.
Underrated.
To your underrated pick, Ceri, who do we have?
On the flip side, one of my least favorite bands, probably one of my favorite bands, which is Mclusky. And before I went to university, back in the days of living in home counties, getting XFM, I remember hearing some Mclusky on the radio. I didn't really know, which led me to buy a album. And then I went off to uni to Cardiff, and I just assumed Mclusky was an American band. And then I got to Cardiff in 2003, and then I listened to them in my dorm, and then that was like 2004, and I was like, oh, Mclusky are playing in Cardiff, I should go see that band. But then I didn't go see them, and they broke up in January 2004. And then I found out where I actually studied. I think just after I started, like maybe in the freshers week, they played there. And the guy who was in the old band with, he saw them. He said, "Yeah, it was really great, but we were going out." So I watched the first 15 minutes and then left, and it was like one of the last gigs in Cardiff. So yeah, so that was how I kind of discovered Mclusky, and then really kind of got into them. But Andrew Falkous, who is the lead singer in them, also had another band after that, which was Future of the Left, who I did see a lot in Cardiff and saw them in Berlin. And I really, especially, the first couple of albums from Future of the Left, I really, really liked, and it definitely felt like a continuation when I went back and started back cataloguing the Mclusky albums, which I had as well. And yeah, so that is me on Mclusky. Were you guys aware of them, or and how did you find it?
I was aware of the name, and I think like back in the early noughties, I think Melody Maker would have a CD on the cover occasionally, with like a mixed CD, and I think Mclusky were on there. And when I think they were kind of linked to like more of the heavier side of British indie, alongside like early Idlewild and maybe like 6x7, like the more shouty indie of the turn of the century. But
this, for the bingo card, this is Tick Tick Tick, yeah.
Tick Tick Tick. But they're called like hardcore, but I don't think I wouldn't really name them.
Post-hardcore.
Yeah,
post-hardcore, noise rock sometimes. I don't know, like
so many words, so many names.
They're a three-piece guitar band. Like, you know,
I mean, I knew the name of, and then on your playlist, I didn't recognise any songs. But when I did some further deeping, I thought, oh yeah, here we go. There was one song that I recognised. But yeah, they're not a band who I own anything of at all. Babs.
So this was an interesting one, because I definitely heard the name, and I presumed that my imagination was, oh yeah, I think they're a bit loud and I don't like them from hearing them once. But it turns out in 2016, I had listened to them and saved 2 of their songs to my Spotify playlist, including one that you've picked today, Ceri, and another song that's not on here called She Will Only Bring You Happiness. I had no idea they were from Wales. I had no idea that Andrew Falkous was also in Future of the Left. I had no idea that he was Christian Fitness, that James Acaster covered in the Perfect Sounds book and the podcast, and he even interviewed him as well. So I was like, oh my god, like this guy is linked to so many different parts of British music that I did know about, but I hadn't realised it. And I listened to the songs that I saved, and I was like, oh yeah, this is really good. How have I not known about this? But yeah, they only have 51,000 monthly listeners. I wondered how big they were outside Wales, especially given that they worked with Steve Albini on two of the 3 albums. So yeah, I was really surprised that they were, music aside, I was really surprised that they weren't bigger than they were, given their reputation and given who they worked with. So I came in, ready to listen.
Are they as passionate about being Welsh as, say, the Manics, or did they not mention it?
No, well, so the thing, Falco, he's from Newcastle. And then I'm not sure, because then they've had like I'm not sure where the bass player John was from. And then they changed the drum. I think the drum was originally Welsh, and then they changed it for this guy Jack, who also plays in Future of the Left now. And I think he's from Portsmouth. So
okay. Yeah, I knew Future of the Left. I knew a couple of songs, and I was surprised. I had no idea they're linked. He sings differently in Future of the Left. Does he change the style? Future of the Left, even.
Yeah, I guess.
Less abrasive, maybe.
Yeah, so I think he always thought Mclusky was a more simple band from like some interviews which I heard than Mclusky than Future of the Left. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely maybe there's definitely like some, I don't want to call it poppy. It's not really poppy. It's just
melodic.
Maybe.
Like, have either of you heard Christian Fitness, which is just Falco? So Christian Fitness is a lot more experimental and a lot less heavy as well. And I mean, there's definitely a sense of humour in Mclusky from the songs that you've put on the playlist, Ceri, but Christian Fitness is absolutely bloody hilarious. I really recommend checking it out for the lols, at least.
I have noticed a lot of UK comedians do like Mclusky in the same way of like half man, half biscuit kind of vibes.
I mean, even like the description of one of their albums on Bandcamp, so I was listening again to the kind of James Acaster thing, and apparently, so Falco says that it's not a solo project, it's a one-man band, and he's really trying to give the credit to the other people. So it says, Jack Egglestone played drums on it, and Anthony Chapman mastered the thing. They are all good people, shower them with garlands. It is different from Future of the Left in that it is entirely written by me at home, as opposed to the Future of the Left, which I love, where the music happens loudly in a room and is written and shaped by all 3 of us. I hope you like it. If you don't, other albums are released every day. Kiss.
Yeah, they're quite self-depreciating. Isn't it true that when they played live originally, they would tell people they can go to the bar now because they're going to play some slow songs?
Yeah, they did. I mean, things you need to listen, because like there's a Future Left live album and there's a Mclusky live album, and there's even, I think, on Bandcamp as well, Mclusky reformed, so not with the original lineup, but I do want to see them. But still, the in-between banter is kind of along the lines of going to a stand-up comedy night, and then they go into some music, which I also really like.
See, that is interesting, because I said to Fran that I saw that they reformed and they're playing a bunch of concerts, every single one of them in an English-speaking country. So it's UK, Canada, North America, and Australia. And I'm like, but your music definitely fits in Belgium, where noise rock is a huge thing.
Okay, so I don't. I wrote a while ago to Falco about that, and I said, "What's going on?" I said, "Is it Brexit?" And he was pretty much like, "Yeah."
Yes, yeah.
It's I think the paper trail which you need to like have in place to then go play in Europe is a bit more tricky now since Brexit.
Definitely. And yeah, shout out to Blood Red Shoes, who we talk about a lot, because they're finally touring their 6th album and they're going to every other country but Belgium, and they've literally like, we know that we're not coming to every country, but trust me, we tried. And they have a huge fan base here, so yeah, a shame.
They seem to be quite big in Australia, Mclusky. Like, I was listening to a podcast, and he's on 2 podcasts in Australia, and you say he's playing to like about 800 to 1,000 people, so I was quite shocked by.
Yeah, that's right. I had a friend actually when I first moved here, did a German course, and she was Australian. She was like, "I fucking love Mclusky," and then but then also I heard apparently going to Australia, they said, "Oh, you actually get treated like a proper band there because you get paid properly, you get fed properly, and they kind of actually make a big deal out about you coming." Whereas, especially I think going around the UK circuit was sometimes a bit thankless because people are like, "Oh, they're going to be back around in like 4 months' time anyway." So maybe I'll go there. I'll just watch them and then have a drink at the bar.
And I guess they may not have really fitted in that scene because obviously, like, you had the Franz Ferdinand and Kaiser's, then like they were maybe too heavy for that sort of.
But they came a little bit before. That's it. Like, what was interesting about this, I can definitely hear their influence in modern day bands. I'm sure we'll get into it. But it was just before. Like the last album was 2004. I think it was like 2000, 2002, 2004. So I think this kind of music wasn't at all mainstream in that time. It was new metal and the beginning of indie, right? And it sets them apart. And again, because we love mentioning them, Blood Red Shoes, who were also similarly inspired by similar, I think, loud American bands, said that they always felt that they stood out and they didn't fit into a particular scene, and that was really difficult.
Yeah, I guess 2002 is probably like Coldplay and Starsailor were probably the biggest indie bands in the UK. Yeah. Nothing like Mclusky at all.
Well, I'm trying to think like 80s Matchbox Beeline Disaster would
maybe
be
they had a bit more glam to them, maybe.
Well, yeah, they did. I mean, like more
and a bit less abrasive, I would say.
I don't know. There's some pretty abrasive like 80s Matchbox stuff. But
I fucking love 80s Matchbox, and I've actually seen them live in Brighton. I love them. But yeah. What is your first pick from Mclusky?
Yeah, so it was a difficult choice, but I tried taking on your advice of flipping between albums. It's maybe not one of my absolute favorite songs, like musically, but I do like the lyrics of it. Just kind of, it's a bit like kind of childlike, but it's also this kind of a bit sneering thing of, well, what would I say? I'm a white liberal, and you can kind of this kind of thing of people being always kind of correct, but then could be kind of criticized for it. And I really quite like it. And it's kind of like funny, and it's what the Manics aren't, in lyric kind of terms. So I really that's why I chose it. And I also liked that the production on it's not quite as, in my eyes, as good as the ones which you get onto later, but I still like it when it kind of explodes into this like loud and shouty kind of bit as well.
I get the impression that he's not a fan of this album, and he tells people that the second album's basically the debut album, really. I don't know if that's true or not.
I could kind of imagine it, because I was looking back. So when I was thinking about Mclusky, the first songs which I heard, which were, there's a couple of songs which are almost like blues rock. It sounds like blues rock influence on it, which probably got me into them. But then they're the songs which I definitely have kind of left behind now. And in terms of the albums which I really like, the second and third. But I wanted to choose something as well.
You can see why they've been linked to the Pixies. It has the quiet loudness. I came away enjoying the "fuck you, everyone's a hero" line. I think if I was younger and less well adjusted, I may enjoy this. I put down it's a rude romp, but maybe too rude for me. I put could you
cannot wait for the rest of this.
Could you call them the Little Pixies, or are they the Spa Sonic Youth?
Oh, incredible wordplay there.
I chose European supermarkets for our audience.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Perhaps.
Okay, so bear in mind, I didn't think I knew them, and I thought I wouldn't like them and they would be very noisy. So it starts with this fuzzy bass, and I was like, oh, yes, please. Then this kind of jarring melodic lead guitar comes in, and his voice is sounding very vulnerable at the beginning, so I was like, "Ooh, am I going to like this?" But then, when the screaming came in, I'm on board again. Tick. And I stayed on board for the rest of the song. I enjoyed the unpredictability. I enjoyed it even more on the second listen when I knew it was going to be all over the place. And I was not expecting this sound because. I read Pixies a lot, but I feel like the quiet bits where there's minimal accompaniment, I'm almost hearing like Prince on Dance School or Help She Can't Swim, those like very minimalistic indie bands where it's kind of two vocalists and like one instrument. And I was like, how do they do that? How can they give off that vibe, and yet also have these absolutely insane guitars, and it somehow works. But I can't really interpret the lyrics, but I did write down, "Save me, Alta Vista, they've got cauliflower ears."
Yeah, I have to say, I think because this is the thing. So Fran, I'm old enough to know better, but I still do enjoy "Fuck You" because everyone's a hero. Because I know enough people who I think, oh yeah, all right, it's a nice emo you wrote there, saving nothing.
Do you have any of their lyrics tattooed yet at all, Ceri?
I don't have any tattoos, and that's not because I'm against tattoos. It's just I'm just always concerned because of the thing, Fran. I'm saying that now as a 38-year-old. I'm thinking, yeah, it's really good to have "Fuck You" because everyone's a hero, and then maybe I'm going to turn 40 in a couple of years, and I'll be looking at thinking
maybe henna.
You're right, actually. Yeah. You didn't. Well, henna tattoos, of course.
For the festival season, lovely. What's the next pick?
So yeah, the next pick is "Without MSG, I Am Nothing" from The Difference Between Me and You from 2004, and that's the last time which they did, which wasn't as critically acclaimed as the Mclusky Do Dallas, the one before that. But I really like this album, and I really like this song because I kind of like things which are drony, and I like that the bass line maybe has one note, which is very, very loud, and the guitar riff from seeing some live videos often has people almost sounding like they're singing like a football chant, which feels quite funny for this song. Yeah,
I thought that maybe the guitar could be high in the mix. Like, it's very bass heavy. You can barely hear the guitar a lot of the time.
No such thing.
It's repetitive. It's got some yelping. I thought the chorus is singing "Everywhere I Look, a Dog Mess," but yeah, it's not really for me. Unfortunately, it's not my kind of thing.
Here, I thought the guitar works straight away. I'm on board. Then the dirty scuzzy bass comes in. I like the do-do-dos. I really like the singers singing over each other in the "Everywhere I Look, it's a darkness." And again, I'm just in awe of how their voices almost sound whimsical. I don't understand how they do it. I don't understand how they manage to have that atmosphere and yet have those absolutely mental guitars. And when I was listening to these songs, I'm like, I absolutely need to watch like live versions of this to see. So there's a few songs of them performing at Dingwalls in 2019, and yeah, the crowd are singing along, and I was like, oh, can you imagine? Oh, and actually, I forgot to mention this, but when I was doing research and I found out that they're doing this tour in 2022, the comments were absolutely hilarious on this Stereogum article, and I just want to read out two of them. So this guy said, "Now I'm in my late 30s, I've very much become a hang in the back / balcony guy at shows. However, I'm having a hard time imagining a scenario where I don't lose my shit once the set starts." And someone else said, "I'm going to go to this and throw myself at other dudes pushing 40 or 50, and we're all going to be so goddamn sore the next 3 days that it's going to be fucking glorious." And I'm like, yeah, fuck yes, I'm on board 100%.
I'd give them 2 songs before they get backache.
Yeah. We have all headbanged and faced the consequences.
Yeah, get me a fucking Lucasade.
Sciatica kicks in.
Do they sound quite different live? Because obviously the bassist has now changed.
So actually interesting from the Dingwall shows, because I saw those as well, and that's where the live albums come from, like this renewed lineup, and I really like those new I really like the sound of those live recordings a lot, and I think my next choice, I think I might even prefer that recording sound to the actual album version. Yeah, so going into the next song, which is "You Should Be Ashamed, Seamus," which is probably, I would actually put it up there as one of my favorite songs of all time. I think
Pressure.
No, just because, and I rate that on based off the fact that I still enjoy listening to it, and I've probably been listening to that song for 18 years now, or 17, 18 years, and I still like that song. And every time it comes on, I think I still really like this song because I know what it's kind of coming into. And that Dingwall show, hearing it, it has like these layers. So the riff kind of starts, then it kind of goes from this kind of picking into then strumming, and then the bass explodes into it doing the same thing, and it's just rough. And then the lyrics come in, and the lyrics are kind of spiteful and really so this are just really kind of nasty, and again moving away from what the Manics were, with being a little bit label on the tin what it is. This is a bit more kind of feels like personal snidiness towards things, and I can relate to that.
So yeah, Falco says he loves the song live because it means he can breathe for a while, because he says he struggles singing these days. He has to like take different herbal drinks, and he's happy that he only had to sing a 3/4 of the set because his voice can't handle it. So this is his favourite song to play live. But yeah, I put down here Steve Albini, the bass line's infectious. It's got a great guitar line to match, and I put here, this reminds me of 6x7 a lot. It's similar vibe.
I've not heard of 6x7.
Was it 6x7? They had that album because they had like American Beer, but that was very, very different. That was like
I guess you got to eat junk to be drunk.
Yeah.
Their first album is quite similar to this. Then over the years they brought in more synths. But yeah, I think we probably like the first album, Babs, 6x7.
Good to know.
Yeah, from Nottingham. But yeah, it's got a menacing finish, and I reckon it'd be fucking brilliant to see live.
Yeah, I love this. Obviously, a very different beginning. I thought the beginning was basically like a simpler Aerials by System of a Down, with just that very simple guitar, and like Aerials by System of a Down launches into something completely different and heavier. And yeah, my comments on the music are very similar. Everything comes in, one by one, and you're like, yes, and then it goes absolutely mad and disjointed in the chorus. And I really like the speed, how it speeds up and then slows down, and when it slows down in the verses, like you said, Fran, it feels so menacing because you know what's coming, and it feels very exciting. And yeah, the lyrics are, I would say, for this season, ding ding ding, middle class boredom, because it's, what's the point of leaving home when you own it? What's the point of doing it yourself when it looks so shit that these kids can't even feed themselves? What's the point of losing weight if it won't lose you? Born in Cardiff, raised by wolves, and died on his fucking ass. Wow.
What's the next track?
Next track is and this one was one which I actually replaced another song with, because I took it from Mcluskyism, which was a compilation album which had like a lot of B-sides and C-sides on, and I was then looking to do something which wasn't just kind of I guess like smash you guys the whole time, and go for something which was a little bit different tempo. So it's a Hymn for New Cars, and it's a song which there's a lot of the B-sides and C-sides which I like, but I always enjoyed this one as well. I think it's got really nice production, especially on the drum has a really nice snap on it, and it's really simple, but I think it's cool, and it has. Again, going back to the Manics, what I found annoying with those kind of, when I was saying about the guitar bits there, where I thought, I could noodle some bits there, then I thought this had this kind of guitar solo at the end, which kind of kept going up, which I just quite enjoyed. And
I really enjoyed the phrases, show me your gashes, and you run them over in the stolen Volkswagen. So this is the B-side, yeah? It's not an album track, or...
Yeah, exactly. It's not from one of the three albums, and this is just from the compilation thing. So I guess it's one of the B-sides or C-sides.
This is my third favourite track. Babs?
Okay. Yeah, this is probably my least favourite track, because, firstly, again, I'm not really a proper musician, but it sounded too loose. Like, I almost felt like the bits where it's just his voice, bass and drums are almost not in time. Maybe that's on purpose. It's quieter than the other songs, and I think because I was expecting it to build to something, I felt like it didn't, and therefore it feels a bit unfinished. But Bring Me the Heads of My Former Opponents is an incredibly strong opening. I enjoyed the fact that it was in 6/8, and once again I have absolutely no idea what the hell this is about, apart from stolen Volkswagens and show me your gashes. But I, where there were music videos, I tried to find them. So I didn't actually realize this was a B-side or a C-side. The only video I found for this song was a video where it's just a very slow zoom in on cats. I don't know.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, and the comments were brilliant, because someone said, I love Mclusky, I love cats, this is perfect, cats take melancholy away a little, still the song fucks me up, show me your gashes. And then someone else just commented, Mclusky cats, and I was like, incredible. But yeah.
So, obviously being from the noughties, did they not have many music videos? Because obviously most bands did back in those days.
I don't know. I saw, because I actually had a look as well, and it's over the years I kind of actually had a look. And to be honest, it's one of the things which they had some music videos. I think Next Track had a music video. She'll Only Bring You Happiness had a music video, which looked, to be honest, quite uncomfortable for them to like, you know, they maybe looked like they had to do a little bit of acting, didn't look like they were that comfortable with it. And even the one where it's kind of playing live in the next choice also doesn't look like they're the most comfortable, probably like miming along to what they're playing. There wasn't many videos around, which is maybe one of the reasons why they didn't get more traction. Maybe if you have, you know, a good video, get on something.
To your last track.
Yeah, so here then I was going with, I think it's quite often the show closer at a Mclusky night. It was quite often, again, being in Cardiff, you also have being in like a music scene in Cardiff, a lot of my friends like Mclusky, so going out to indie nights, you were like, put some Mclusky on, and they put Mclusky on, and this might be the song which you put on and have a little bop around to. At the end of the night, which is To Hell with Good Intentions, which I also felt was quite a nice last track as we close the podcast.
Beautiful, lovely.
Yeah, this is a song that I knew when I heard it, because I remember the line, "Our band's better than your band. We've got more songs." Whatever.
We've got more songs than a song convention. Brilliant.
Yeah, I guess this is our most accessible song. I guess this is fantastic with an audience all singing along. It's got this irony. I'm sure they're not that cocksure. I mean, this isn't the Manics. And I put down, this is kind of like Art Brut meets Fugazi or Fugazi.
Fugazi, yeah.
Fugazi.
No, sorry, I went a bit too tiny. Fugazi, I think, is the American way. But you mentioned Art Brut. I think someone from Art Brut has played with them live. Hang on.
Yes, they
I saw something on Wikipedia.
Yes, you're right. I'm not sure if it's a bass player. So go on, Babs.
Yep, so blah, blah, blah. So the band reformed in 2015 to raise money for cancer research with Rat the Magnificent, which featured Ian Katz-Gilkin of Art Brut. Oh, that's a funny name to say. Yeah. I know we didn't even mention, actually, that, again, kind of linking back to other artists that we talked about. So Falco is either married to or was married to Julia from Million Dead as well, yeah, who also used to be in the band for a moment.
That's right. She's a bass player in Future of the Left now.
Yeah, there we go. That's the link. Yeah, I didn't touch upon it, but Future of the Left, I have never knowingly heard any of their songs, and I've also, I don't think, really dipped into it. But yeah. So this was the other song that I had saved, and apparently I hadn't listened to it since 2016. I think they pack so much into 225. Pure anarchy. I love how Falco sounds more and more desperate as the song goes on, and it's this mix again of heavy rock but also football chanting. I can imagine with an audience like Fran said, this is great, and it does sound like they're taking the piss out of macho posturing and toxic masculinity, like the total opposite in a way to Il Rey, Fran, that we talked about on the Kasabian episode, because that, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but we know that that's what Kasabian were like at the beginning. This feels like he's in on the joke from the beginning. But it's interesting, Fran, that you say it's their most accessible song, because I would argue, and I sent it to you beforehand, that She Will Only Bring You Happiness is the more accessible song. I meant
on this playlist.
Oh, on this playlist, yeah. Because when I saw how much shouting there was, I was like, oh, this could go either way with Fran. And yeah, when I heard the song, I was like, Fran, listen to this. This might implicate you.
You're patronising my moose, unbelievable. So, Ceri, so which song defines you?
Well, I'm going to go with You Should Be Ashamed, Seamus. Because maybe I should be ashamed of myself.
To quote your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I think I would go. I would go with that. Just again, there's a lot of songs which have been with me for a long time, but I still think that's a song which I particularly would like to see live, because it's huge.
So how come you went for the third album? Is that your favourite one? And because obviously people always bang on about Mclusky. Does that as being their best album?
I think actually what's interesting, again, with like listen to Mcluskyism, and then it was like all these songs which they had all the kind of typical greatest hits, and going down that and being like, oh yeah, this is great, this is great, and then kind of going back and then looking what albums they're on, you're going, actually the songs which I really like from that, a lot of them are from the third album. I mean, I still like all the albums, and but still that. And I think also being in Cardiff at the time when Future Left came out. So the Future Left first album came out in 2007, which would have been 3 years after this, and really, really liking that first album, and then kind of listening back and thinking, oh, it's kind of like a little continuation there, at least for me. So yeah, that's why.
Babs, Mclusky, over or underrated?
100% underrated. This was one of the most enjoyable playlists of bands that I didn't know. You know, I really, it turns out I knew them more than I thought, but I really enjoyed getting into it. And yeah, I'd say apart from what's the quiet song, Hymn for New Cars, apart from Hymn for New Cars, I saved every single song, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in. And again, maybe I don't know as much kind of American noise rock. I feel like people talk about Pavement and Why and all these other bands all the time that I don't really get. But I just can't think of another band that sounds exactly like them. Like I said, that how they, you know, it's the typical kind of three-piece making a racket type thing. I would say maybe the Belgian band Hyper Christmas Tree Fuzz is the Belgian equivalent, but they have a lot more synths. And yeah, they clearly influenced Idols and other people before the UK indie explosion. However, it is a weird, angular, heavy rock, and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I really think that it doesn't surprise me that they're not bigger. This type of music in the UK has a more niche appetite, and I was pretty surprised that people kept comparing them to Pixies. I have to, like, sure, quiet loud, but like the loud is very, very, very loud, and I can think of many people who don't like that kind of thing. So yeah, I think they're really, really underrated, and it's up my street. So thank you, Ceri, but I can understand if you don't think they are. Fran?
Aye. So I mean, yeah, I guess I prefer the sound of Abbey Road than someone's garage. So it's hard for me to be on board. But yeah, I don't hate them at all. And 2 of these tracks I enjoyed myself, but I think 2 out of 5 means I would have to say not underrated. I think they were probably out at the wrong time. And unfortunately, and I guess they're on quite a small label. They probably didn't get much push. The fact that we can't think of any music videos or any singles isn't going to help a band to get popular in the UK. So maybe that's what harmed their career. I prefer maybe Future of the Left personally, but it's got a little bit more sheen to it.
Yeah, that's
but I think you should both check out Christian Fitness. Like I said, I'd kind of forgotten about them, and whatever. It's much more playful. And Fran, I think especially you would enjoy how playful and melodic it is.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to recommend from the band?
Just go, just everything. Just check out everything.
I mean, I'm guessing you're going to do your utmost to go and see them live, right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's the plan. Let's see. So that would be. But
they're not coming to Germany. You know, they're not coming to Belgium. So.
No. So maybe I need to go back to Blighty. See how I get on over
and
there.
And you have a podcast too, I believe.
Yeah, I do. Thanks a lot. So we're not quite as quick as you guys. We're averaging about like an episode a month, but Play This Year, where we are also we deal with music, but we don't analyze it quite as much. We kind of riff on each other and riff on our guests, depending on if they say the right thing, which we can go on. But it's a lot of fun, and we are pretty eclectic with the stuff which we're covering there. So check us out, www.playthisyear.com.
Nice. And I was saying, I think before the record, that like us, you know, you're a continental / UK podcast. So how did it come about? Like, I'm guessing you guys knew each other before?
Yeah, it is. So me and Mike, we've known each other for half our lives now, 19 years. And during lockdown, I'm a big fan of because it's how I find out a lot of new music. So I started on Spotify just making playlists with people, and it would always be the rule: one song, you need to follow that one song. You can have a very tenuous link with it. And me and Mike grew up like listening to a lot of the same stuff. So then it would just be kind of doing that, and we got really out of control. Then we got a little bit tipsy, and we're like, bloody love our playlist. This is such a good playlist. I think this might be the best playlist ever. Maybe we should make a podcast about it. Mike was a stand-up before. I did music before. So we're like, okay, we can kind of, we've got some musician friends. We've got some comedian friends. Let's just try and get people on here to talk about it. And let's get your mum involved as well. So
I got my dad involved as well. So there we go. More in common.
Are we ripping each other off? So that's how we got into it. And I guess maybe a bit like you guys, it kind of got a little bit obsessive, and it's just a lot of fun to start doing it. So, and I think both of you are on our guest wish playlist. We have our guest wishes there. So as we work our way down, I guess I'm going to be like bugging you guys if you want to come and
please do. Love going on podcasts where the pressure is off, because I'm not the host. So yeah, no. I listen to your podcast, and it does sound indeed very enjoyable and very fun. So I'm in. Fran, any final thoughts?
Listen to podcasts and listen to music, and stay safe, guys. And get some tattoos of your band's favourite lyrics in henna, maybe. Babs?
I was going to say the very boring kind of keep supporting live music. I think, especially given today's underrated pick, it really gave me an appetite to go and watch them live. I might have to go back to Blighty as well. And Fran, I'm looking forward to going back to your country as well, Ceri. Looking forward to being back in the UK very soon. And I'm going to Dalston for an indie night out called Dance Yourself Clean. I am really looking forward to it.
You're so mid-noughties.
Yeah, I'm so mid-noughties.
Oh, come on. Mid-noughties are the best though, right?
That is my era. Mid-noughties is when I went to university, so... yeah.
Okay, so see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Thanks a lot for having me. Bye.
Well, that was a lot of fun, guys. I hope you enjoyed the quiz questions and all of our chat about the Manics and Mclusky. If you enjoyed this podcast, why don't you like, subscribe, and maybe give us a review. We are also on social media. We are on Twitter at OUMusicPod and on Instagram at OverUnderatedMusicPod. We can't wait for you to follow us and let us know of any topics or guests we should try for in Season 5. Until then, have a wonderful summer. Goodbye.